Let's talk more about the Kennedy confirmation hearing, what we learned today. Welcoming in the former vice chair of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women, host of Money Talk with Melanie. Melanie Collette is here, also with us, Democratic strategist Jason Nichols. Melanie, first to you. Obviously, abortion a big part of this hearing today with this position at Health and Human Services for RF Kennedy Jr. How do you do today?
Listen, I thought he did well. He knew he was going to be under attack, and he really was. And it just shows, just from a macro perspective, the power of big pharma and big food, and when it's going to be attacked. And I think that that's largely what this is about. There is no doubt that there are serious health concerns that the country is facing that have never been faced before, and it would take a change agent like President Trump and RFK to address those issues. So I think, considering the fire that he was under and the task that he has at hand, I thought he did really well.
All right, Jason, I want to play a clip here. This was Elizabeth Warren tearing into Robert Kennedy Jr. Take a look.
As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Okay, Jason, you know, we know he has the votes, and even if it's a tie, the vice president, J.D. Vance, can obviously vote. Do you think Elizabeth Warren is accomplishing what she wants to accomplish here? I mean, what do you think her objective is?
I mean, well, I think the objective is to sway people to vote against Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who does have, of course, a checkered past, going back to his heroin addiction, you know, going back to him being a cocaine dealer at one point in his life. But even if you say that he's cleaned himself up from all of that, that question about Samoa and the 83 children who died from not taking the measles vaccine because he came through with the power of the name Kennedy and dissuaded people from using it, I think that is something that is a question. And, you know, again, the big problem, I've met RFK, he's a very nice man. But one of the things that he does do is he makes statements and, you know, recent statements, and then when he gets put under pressure, he all of a sudden says he didn't say that. And I think that's the troubling thing. And I think she's trying to convince her colleagues that even if you're a Republican, you know, you still want the best person for this position, and that person is not Robert F. Kennedy.
Well, the argument that Robert Kennedy Jr. made, Collette, Melanie, is that he, you know, is in a unique position given his work specifically on chronic illness. And he tried to take the conversation back to that, and specifically what he has been tasked to do by Donald Trump. Was he effective in his attempts to do that?
I thought he was, and I'm a little surprised to hear the argument that because he has overcome drug addiction, that makes him unqualified. I think that may make him qualified to empathize with people who are struggling with that addiction and to put services and things in place to help those people. I thought the Democrats were like the party of like redemption and second chances, but I guess not if you're a Republican. So I was just shocked to hear Jason use that argument. But I thought he did well under those circumstances.
Apparently has another round of hearings tomorrow. Things did go a little long today. And Jason, one of the other things that was pointed out about this hearing today in particular is Ron Wyden, the ranking member, you know, kind of strayed from the normal, I guess, protocol in these types of situations and really just did a partisan attack in his opening statement on RFK Jr. And it seems to some that this is some residual resentment left over from RFK Jr. running against Joe Biden.
Yeah, I can't speak for any one member of Congress and what their motivation was. I think that there are people who have legitimate concerns, and I think you heard some of those even in the clips that you showed, that people have concerns about what he will do to health in our country. And I think that, you know, we want people who are competent, who are qualified, and have the right view to be in positions of power and influence. And I'm not certain that RFK Jr. Is that person. Now, as far as his drug addiction, I can tell you I have close family members who have been drug addicted or dealing with drug addiction to this very day. And I have friends who have sold drugs and actually gone to prison for it. They never got an opportunity the way Robert F. Kennedy is because he's a Kennedy. But I will say, I'm all for second chances, and I'm really looking forward to when you guys vote for Hunter Biden when he's.
Oh, Jason, I was just about to mention, you didn't seem so concerned about Hunter Biden's past when he was flying around the world with his dad working on these business deals and the opportunities that he was getting.
So, John, I was concerned absolutely for Hunter Biden, and if he was guilty of some sort of malfeasance or crime, he should pay for that. But what I don't believe was that Joe Biden was involved. And that's what Republicans, despite all of the documentation and all of the things that they tried to show, could not show it. Could not show that, or else they would have impeached Joe Biden, and they failed at that.
What was proven, though, Jason, is that Joe Biden lied to the American public over and over about his knowledge of those business deals. We've seen the pictures. We know that he was intimately involved. And, even now, there's an article today by Matt Iglesias blaming Joe Biden and his family. Democrats are finally starting to come around on this issue to what Joe Biden and his family actually did, protecting their name and their business interests while the Democratic Party rotted on the vine. And this is the result. This is why there's this, so much confusion about the path forward for Democrats right now, Melanie.
Most certainly. I mean, and covered it up to the tune of like 51 intelligence agents saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian information, and it turned out to all be real. We literally saw videos of Hunter Biden smoking crack and being with prostitutes. Where were the prosecutions on that? Oh, yeah, statute of limitations.
Look.
Because he was a Biden.
Jason mentioned Hunter. I don't want to go back in time too much because Hunter Biden really is irrelevant to this conversation. But he did mention Hunter. I was actually going to mention this too because Jason was talking about the past. The past is the past. Robert Kennedy Jr. Is focused on the future, and again, what he talked about today is following the law, upholding his constitutional obligation to fulfill his role in his duties as the HHS secretary, and following through on Donald Trump's agenda, which is making America healthy again, particularly. Jason, I know there's a lot of criticism from your standpoint on Kennedy, but just give us as best you can, your objective opinion on how Robert Kennedy Jr. did projecting the ideals and the platform that Donald Trump wants to accomplish.
Well, I think he did as well as he could do, particularly when all you can do when confronted with your own statements is basically deny that you said it, even though it's on the record, it's on these podcasts, it's stated in different articles where he is literally directly quoted. So I think he defended himself about as strongly as one could expect when all you are armed with is dishonesty. And it's really disappointing because I actually met Robert F. Kennedy, and I think he's a kind man at heart. Like, I don't have any kind of ill will towards Robert Kennedy himself. I just think he's trying to put himself in a position that he's not qualified for. And all we have to go off is the past. And what he did in Samoa was despicable, and 83 children died. So I think it's, he was in a pretty tough spot, and he did as well.
Jason, look, I don't have all the details on what happened in Samoa. I know that we got a very carefully curated picture from the Democrats on the panel today. Robert Kennedy Jr. had like 30 seconds to defend himself, and all this stuff is going to be entered into the record. So before we go too far down this road, it doesn't really seem like Robert Kennedy Jr. went there with deadly vaccines and killed these children himself, which is what you're making it sound like. We don't think that happened. Robert Kennedy Jr. has an opinion on vaccines, and it's well documented, and he said all this stuff before. He is focused today on the fact, and he said this several times, that he's interested in making sure that he executes Donald Trump's vision for what he wants the Health and Human Services Department to look like. So, dwelling on the past, again, and this is, Melanie, what we've seen from Democrats in other congressional hearings. Who did this? Who said what? This is all in the past. And the American public they are completely unmoved by any of this.
That's exactly right, John. And I was about to say, there's a big difference between beliefs that you have and nuances about healthcare, and then taking a job where you work for the president of the United States, and your job is to implement his agenda based on his policies. And I would argue that there's some room there when you take a job and you say, can I do the job that the president of the United States has asked me to do? It's not about how you feel about what the president is asking you to do, is whether or not you are willing to implement that agenda and whether or not you can do it effectively based on those policies. That's the bottom line, not what he said on a podcast 5 years ago.
All right, guys, great to have you with us today. We've obviously been watching the RFK Jr. hearing. He's going to be back on Capitol Hill tomorrow. Also, we have the Kash Patel hearing coming up tomorrow as well. That one should also be very interesting. Melanie, Jason, thank you both for being here today.